currently produces and consumes more than resources can sustain. Now, this means that a low-carbon future is our only option, and South Africans simply can't afford to fall behind. Tonight, we're going to take a look at new opportunities opening up specifically in the green economy and some of the difficult decisions that businesses are being forced to make. And joining us now is Alex McNamara, who's the principal consultant at Camco Global. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. We've seen an interesting report about SAB, but more broadly, is business in South Africa actually getting this?
I think they're beginning to, certainly. I mean, that example, I think, just illustrates that process. I think there are too many global drivers that are driving this agenda and making people aware of really the business opportunities. I mean, if we look at renewable energy, which is really a sort of a pinnacle of the green economy, I mean, the growth there has been exponential. So we have, 300 million people employed in the sector at the moment. You've got $150 billion invested, in 2009 during the financial crisis. So I think that sort of industry illustrates the fact that there are really big opportunities in this particular sector.
I want you to address the issue of this thing called the green job. Is it something that really exists, or just a nice term for consultants like you to bandy about?
It's definitely something that exists. I mean, I think the green economy is a broad concept, if you like, but I think it's really about the fact that we understand that there's a sort of transition occurring in terms of access to resources, in terms of availability of resources, the pricing of resources, all the various environmental challenges that we face today. It's part of a much longer process by which we have to address those particular issues in water, in waste, in climate change, etc. So, I mean, whilst it's a fairly broad concept, it's about that transition to more cleaner production, cleaner sources of energy, and a whole variety of different means. So yes,
what you're saying is every job should be a green job?
Well, hopefully over time, as we develop more sophisticated means, every job will be a green job. But certainly there are a number of opportunities to develop new green industries as we speak now, going forward, and obviously opportunities to sort of clean our economy over time as it already exists.
Alex, one understands the urgency imperative here, but what is the balance between green jobs and simply jobs in a country like ours, where the unemployment rate is massive and it is rising?
I think if we start with growing new industries, that means there's an opportunity to develop. So there are opportunities for jobs in a number of areas. If we look at what's happened internationally, the labor-intensive nature of many green technologies means that there are actually more jobs available in things like organic agriculture, in renewable energy. There's a whole host of job opportunities in recycling, waste management, energy efficiency. So in many respects, the things we need to do to reduce our water consumption, or to conserve energy, to provide new energy sources, those things are all potential job creation.
But this is all distant horizon stuff. How do you talk about the here and now? How do you convince the retrenched factory worker or the credit-squeezed factory owner that has retrenched that worker that green has to be on top of their agenda when it is a survival game?
Well, there's some evidence to suggest that actually green industries help bring the world out of the 2009 financial crisis.
Give us an example.
Well, I mean, at the moment we talk about, think about the American steel industry. It's a bastion of key industry for that particular economy. It's been heavily supported over a long period of time. Today in America, there are less people employed in the US steel industry than there are in the solar industry. So this is about new industries being developed. This is about new opportunities. So the green economy is actually not just an abstract concept. It's been happening for some time. And China, the US, Brazil, India, Germany, Spain, they've all been developing massive renewable energy technologies for a long period of time.
But in order to transition, as you refer to it, as it costs money, how do you unlock the finance to make that happen?
Well, I think you have to look at private investment. You have to look at ways of co-funding. You need to think about ways to unlock finance. A lot of that is about bridging finance, so providing financing at early stages for projects and initiatives and getting the sort of research and development underway and done.
Which requires an equitable return.
Yeah, absolutely. But there are equitable returns to be had in a variety of areas, in the sort of low carbon space, in the waste management space, in a variety of areas. It's really a question of making sure you take the resources and you extract or leverage it as best as you can, so you can access additional funding and bring in the right sort of players on board.
Is it your impression, working in this field, that the government and the private sector are actually working sufficiently well together in order to achieve the kind of goals that you're outlining?
I think there are always...
There've got to be gaps.
Yeah, there are always challenges. I think there's the issue of policy integration and how we get that right across our different areas, both in the water sector, in the energy sector, and the linkages between them in the waste sector. So the policy integration is still something we're working on.
So where are the policy gaps then?
I think the gaps really lie in a stable regulatory framework for things like renewable energy. It's developing. We've got an important procurement process underway for renewables, but it's really about having the right stable regulatory framework and then also having the right incentives brought into place that obviously don't duplicate other efforts as well. I think that's one of the key areas. And just getting our
Some of the
planning
criticism in this country is the incentives are not good enough.
I think that, compared to where I think many countries have been in terms of their incentivization programs in the past, we're at a fairly early stage. So we still have a lot of work to be done to unlock the investment, to bring in the private sector, and to bring in a whole range of players to really make it happen.
In the meantime, the green clock is ticking. I mean, if you listen to the Environment Minister, who I interviewed an hour ago, she was talking about the urgency at reaching some sort of post-Kyoto compromise. It would seem to me that the time is working against us.
Yeah, well, and not just from
she's right, isn't she?
From an environmental perspective, absolutely, but also from an economic perspective, because I mean, right now, we're talking about the Medupi power station. It's about 4,000 megawatts. China installed 3,000 megawatts of wind in 2009. The US installed 10,000 megawatts of wind. So that's orders of magnitude greater than one particular power station we're trying to develop. The point I'm trying to make is that, I mean, if we want to move forward into these green technologies, we obviously have to take advantage of the things we've already done, and obviously recognize that in some ways we are quite far behind the curve.
And also it means massive skills retraining, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I would suggest we're behind the curve on that side.
It starts obviously with your educational system and then moves forward to skills development, etc. It is a challenge that we will face, but we know that we can innovate. I mean, if you look, the dual electric car a few years ago was a darling of the Paris Motor Show. We've also looked at solar panels, technologies. The thin film is actually something we developed ourselves, so we know we can innovate. It's really a case of commercializing that and really rolling it out on a mass scale.
Final question to you, given that CO2 emission is patently going to dominate COP17 in Durban next week, will green jobs actually find their way onto the agenda in any way, and if so, how?
They will definitely find their way onto the agenda. They are a key component of the agenda as we speak. A key issue will be around climate finance, and much spoken about climate finance. So how do we access money to support our green jobs initiatives? And that's really a process that's already occurring. That's one of the key ways it will happen. And of course, if international signals are sent, if we have a good global agreement, we have the right sort of incentives, the right sort of price signals, we have the right sort of long-term investor perspective to say this is an issue we have to take seriously, and we will move forward on. And that's, I think, really where the main areas of will come into being.
Appreciate you dropping in tonight.
Sure, thank you.
Insights. Thank you very much indeed. Alex McNamara with us from Camco Global.